All right, in this video, we're actually going to go over parts 1 and 2 of the test review. So just, again, if you need to fast forward, feel free, but we're doing part 1 first and then part 2, all in one video. All right, question number 1, determine if the sequence is arithmetic. All right, geometric, you can read the rest. All right, remember the first thing always, guys, is always look to see if it's geometric, because geometric is the oddball. Okay, that's the one where you can't subtract. It's all about multiplication. So what I always like to do is I always like to look at the very first two numbers. Can I multiply anything by 12 to get to 72? Well, yes, I can actually multiply by 6. Okay, so now let's look at the next two. If I took 72 and if I multiplied it by 6, would I get 432? And I would. So all of a sudden, I'm starting to see a pattern that I'm actually multiplying by the same number. So that means it's going to be geometric. All right. So that means in order to get my next number, I just simply have to take 15,582 and times it by 6, which my next number would be 93,312. Okay. Now for the next one, again, geometric. Is it geometric? Is there anything I can multiply to 9 to get the 28? And the answer is no. There's nothing I can do from a whole number standpoint. So I'm just going to start my subtracting. So 28 minus 9, I believe that's 119. And then, again, just doing the subtractions here, 29. I believe that's going to be 39. I believe that's going to be 49. Okay, so that will be 10, 10, 10. I went down 2 levels. It is going to be quadratic. Remember, add the numbers at the very end, 204. There we go. All right, write the recursive formula. Remember, it's always going to be a n minus 1 something, like number 4. I don't know, I put that a so big. So I don't even know what I'm actually going to be doing. I just know that that's the formula that's going to start off with. So 15. Now, again, what I tell students a lot of times is sometimes negative numbers throw them off. You don't necessarily always have to look at the very first two numbers. You can actually look at the next two or the last 2 or 3, because that might give you a better idea of what you're doing. And I'm adding 8. Let's see, 4 to 8, and then to negative 16. Well, I'm multiplying by negative 2. All right. Find the missing terms of the arithmetic sequence. Remember that you've got to find your common difference, and that is taking your later term and subtracting your earlier term. So this is my later term, this is my earlier term. So negative 16 minus 34, which gives me negative 50, I believe. And then you divide by the number of jumps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm dividing by 5, and that means my common difference is negative 10. So that means I'm going to be subtracting 10 every single time. Am I subtracting 10? Let's see. Let's try that one more time. All right, and then let's see, 4, 5. Okay, subtracting 10s. All right, so let's try it. Something just looked weird. Let's see, 14, 4. Yep, that'd be negative 6. Sorry, that kind of threw me off there. All right, for number 6, negative 32 minus 22. I believe it's going to be negative 52. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Divide that by 6. Oh, that should have been 54. You guys are probably screaming at the screen. Negative 54 divided by 6. That gives me, my common difference is negative 9. So that would be, let's see, 13. That would be 4. That would be negative 5. That would be negative 14. That would be negative 23. There we go. All right, finding the missing term. So we got to find our R. If you remember, it's going to be my later term divided by my early term. I'm going to get a number, and then I'm going to take the root. All right, so negative 81 divided by negative 1, that gives me 81. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth root of 81, R is equal to 3. Now, most of you guys are getting this on the quiz, so I'm really kind of talking just to about 1 or 2 of you now at this point. Negative 3, negative 9, negative 27. All right, 512 divided by 2. I believe that's 256. And it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. The fourth root of 256, which is 4. All right, so R is equal to 4. 8, 32, and then that's 1, 128. All right. All right. Again, still got a couple folks are having issues with this. Remember, A of 1 is your first term, literally, always first term. All right. Plus 6 tells me what I'm doing. I'm adding 6 every single time. All right. 28 and 34. All right. Same concept of number 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Literally, A1, I'm giving it to you. Don't overthink it. And I'm subtracting 30. So that would be negative 36, negative 66, negative 96, negative 126. All right. All right, so given the explicit formula, find the first common terms. Now, let me go ahead and say it one more time. This and this is not first term. All right, so stop doing that. I'm still having people putting 47 right here because it's literally right there. You guys, it's not the first term on an arithmetic sequence, okay? So in order to get the first term, you take 1, you plug it in for n, okay? So you are going to do 47 minus 20 times 1. All right, so that I believe that gives me 27. All right, and then you do 2, you plug it in there. All right, so 47 minus 40. Now we're at 7. Then you do the same thing for 3. But at this point, you should kind of know what's happening, and that is you are subtracting 20 every single time. So that's negative 13, negative 33, and then negative 53. All right, for question number 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, chose the wrong one. All right. So my first term, I'm just going to kind of speed up, should be negative 38, negative 36, negative 34, negative 32, negative 30. All right. Okay, I'm given my first term. I need to find my common difference. All right. Very simple, guys. Again, same concept. The answer is not 4n minus 15. This and this are not going to be your final answer, okay? You have to run it through the arithmetic formula. Remember, the arithmetic formula is A of n is equal to something plus something n minus 1. Your first term is negative 15. Your common difference is 4. Distribute, distribute. Negative 15 plus 4n minus 4. So that means my final answer is 4n minus 19. All right? Same concept. 18 minus 100, parenthesis, n minus 1. Distribute, distribute. 18 minus 100, n plus 100. All right, combine the first, combine the last. Negative 100, n plus 118. Now, guys, again, I said this several times, but if I say your answer should look like this, that's the way your answer should look like. I got so many people that are doing answers that look like this. This is their final answer. I'm literally telling you what the answer is going to look like in that format. So please make sure you're doing it. All right, my first term is 35, and I'm subtracting 10. D is equal to negative 10. 35 minus 10 to the n minus 1 power. Distribute, distribute. 35 minus 10, n plus 10, 10n plus 45. Okay? Remember, this, I'm literally telling you what the formula is going to look like. 5n plus 10, a format like this. Negative 8 is my first term. Looks like I'm adding 6, n minus 1. My final answer, 6n. I'm just fast forwarding it. Minus 14. All right, now we're getting into a little more calculations here. All right, remember your final answer is going to look like this. You have your 36th term and you have your common difference. So we got to use our A of n is equal to something plus something n minus 1. My common difference is 5. I got to find my first term. I'm going to take 186 here. I'm going to take 36, plug it there. So 186 is equal to x plus 5, parenthesis, 36 minus 1. So that's 186 is equal to x. When I do all that, it becomes plus 175. All right, I subtract 175 from both sides. My first term ends up being 11. So from there, I now know my first term, which means I'm going to take this, I'm going to plug it into that. So a of n is equal to 11 plus 5 n minus 1. I'm doing good so far, but remember, I'm telling you, the formula is going to look like this. So I cannot leave it in that format. All right, don't make that mistake. Some of you guys did on the quiz. 11 plus 5n minus 5. Combine the first, combine the last. My final answer is 5n plus 6. All right. So question number 18, I'm just going to go ahead and give you the answer just because of the fact that we're running out of time. Or not running out of time, but I want to make sure we use our time correctly. All right, so there we go. 18 is 4n minus 37. Okay, now we are in part 2. All right, so now we're working on part 2. So here's part 2. All right, so it says Eleni has decided to add strength training to her exercise program. She will begin. Here we go. We got to make sure we pull all the information out correctly. She will begin with 30 minutes, all right, of weight training. All right, she will begin with 30 minutes. So that's A of 1 is equal to 30, okay? And then she will add 5 minutes. That's your common difference, 5. Now, guys, the thing about these word problems is that they are exactly like question we just did. So question number 1, I'm giving you your first term, I'm giving you your common difference. That's just like question number 13. All right, so you're solving it the exact same way. So my first term, remember, do not go, oh, that's easy, that's 30 plus 5n. Guys, do not do that because remember, A of 1, as well as your common difference, does not just blindly go into the answer. So it's A of n is equal to 30 plus 5 to the n minus 1 power. Distribute, distribute, and then we're at 30 plus 5n minus 5. Combine the first, combine the last. 5n plus 25. Now, again, folks, if you want to check your work, here's what you got to do. Very simply, it's super easy. It takes you no time at all. You know your first term is 30. Take 1, plug it in for n. Do you get 30? If the answer is no, then you got it wrong. There's no sense even submitting work that you know is wrong. Check your work. All right, so after knee surgery, John told him to slowly, okay, so John should increase jogging by 6 minutes. That's your common difference because you're adding 6 minutes. It says by the 8th week, he was jogging 58. So that's A of 8 is equal to 58. Okay, so A of 8 is equal to 58. Now this question, again, going back to part 1, is just like these two questions right here. Exactly the same where you're trying to find your first term. All right, so trying to find your first term, we've done this several times at this point, and it's 58 is equal to x plus 6 to the n minus, actually it's no longer n minus 1 because we're using the information. That should be 8 minus 1 closed up, and then that's 58 is equal to x plus, when I do all that, I believe it ends up being 42. Subtract x is equal to 14. So here's my first term. Here's my common difference. All right. So plug it into the formula. It would be a of n is it would be a of n is equal to my first term, which is 14, plus 6 n minus 1. Distribute, distribute. 14 plus 6n minus 6. Combine the first, combine the last. You get 6n, and then you get plus 8. There it is, super easy. All right, so question number 3 and 4, you're having to find your common difference because I'm not given my common difference, and then you got to find your first term, A of 1. All right, so question number 3, first thing, find the common difference. Subtract the early from the, or later from the earlier, 138 minus 38, so 138 minus 38, that gives me 100. And then I'm at the 14th term, I'm at the 34th term, I'm going to divide by 20. So that means my common difference is 5. All right, so now I know my common difference is 5. I'm either going to use this or this to figure out my first term. I'm just going to use the smaller number because I like smaller numbers. So it's going to be 38 is equal to my first term that I'm looking for plus 5 times 14 minus 1. All right, 14 minus 1 is 13 times 5, that's 38 is equal to x plus 65. I subtract 65 on both sides, and I get my first term x is equal to negative 27. Okay? So I know my first term, I know my common difference. Now it's time to plug it in. It's going to be a of n is equal to negative 27 plus 5 n minus 1. Distribute, distribute. Negative 27 plus 5n plus minus 5. Combine the first, combine the last. 5n minus 32. There we go. That's it. As easy as it is. All right, number 4 is the same exact way. I'm just going to go ahead and give you the answer. It's going to be, for number 4, it will be positive 200n minus 210. There we go. Now we're dealing with geometric. See, it's now geometric. All right, I know it's geometric because it's telling me this is geometric, and the ones we just did was arithmetic. All right, so remember, geometric is a of n is equal to my first term times my r n minus 1. Remember, this is my first term. I can literally use my eyes to see my first term. What am I doing? I am multiplying by negative 3 every single time. There's my answer. All right. Same concept for 6. My first term was 4, and I'm multiplying by negative 4 n minus 1. All right. It says, given the explicit formula for geometric, find the first 5 terms. Very simply, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know that this is my first term, negative 4. Okay? But let's say you forgot. Let's say you forgot that that was your first term. Then again, just like arithmetic, take a 1, plug it in there. You get negative 4. Then take a 2, plug it in there to the end, and you'll get negative 16. And then take your 3, plug it in there, and then you get, I think you get negative 64, I think. Let's see. And then you get negative 256, and then you get negative 1024. All right, very simple. Question number 8, I'm just going to go and give the answers. 318, 108, 648, and then lastly would be 3,888. Yep. Okay. All right, question number 9. Find 11. Find a of 11. Very simple. Take 11, plug it in there. For 10, take 10, plug it in there. All right. This should be very simple. In fact, based on your quizzes, I would probably say 90% of you are getting this right now. All right. 10 would be 2048, I believe. Yep, 2048. All right. Question number 11, 12, all that good stuff. All right. So question number 11. All right, now if you notice, we have our r, but we do not have our first term. So we have to use the geometric sequence. A of n is equal to something, parentheses, something to the n minus 1 power. I have my r, which is 5. Okay, I'm looking for my first term. 12,000 will go there. 6 will go there. So 12,500 is equal to x, parentheses, 5 to the 6 minus 1 power. Okay, now again, I'm never going to raise something to the 6 minus 1 power because that'd be foolish. 5 to the 5th power, and so my answer is, I got to write over here, I'm running out of space. Actually, I'll just write it up underneath it. So pretend like that's not there. 12,500 is equal to 3125x. I divide by 3125. My first term, x is equal to 4. Okay, so now that I have my first term, I have my r, so now I can't, let me put my first term there, I can just put in for my final answer. A of n is equal to something, parentheses, something to the n minus 1 power. A of 1, I just found was 4, r is 5, I'm done. I do not have to simplify. Question number 12, the same exact way, negative 4 times 2 to the n minus 1 power. All right, now let's try question number 13. All right, so question number 13, we are having to now find r. Notice we're not given r anymore. So in order to find r, we did this on part 1. R, you have to take the later term divided by the earlier term, and then you're going to get a number, and then you're going to root the number. Okay, so 20, I'm sorry, 1024 divided by 16. So 1024 divided by 16, I get 64. And I'm going to, and that's little 2, that's a little 5, that's the third root. So the third root of 64, r is equal to 4. Okay? That's my first part. Now I need to find my first term. So now I'm going to do a of n is equal to something, parentheses something, to the n minus 1 power. I just found my r, it's 4. I need to find my first term. I'm going to use the smaller of the two numbers and put 16 here. So 16 is equal to x4 to the 2 minus 1 power. Okay, again, 2 minus 1. I got to write it over here. That becomes 16 is equal to 4x, because 2 to the 1 is the first power, divide by 4, and I get x is equal to 4. That's my first term. So knowing that this is my first term, let me kind of clean all this up a little bit so I have more room to write. My final answer is going to be a of n is equal to something, parentheses something, to the n minus 1 power. I just found my r's to be 4. My first term is to be 4. There's my answer. Right. Question number 14. The answer is negative 2, parentheses 6 to the n minus 1 power. There we go. Now, questions 15, 16, 17, and 18 are very similar to questions 11, 12, 13, 14. So I'm not really reinventing the wheel here. All right, so it says a scientist is trying to discover a cure for the common cold. He accidentally put some of the paperwork in the trash. But here we go. By the 6th hour, it's 9,720. So A of 6 is 9720. And then it says A of 10 is 787,320. This question is literally like, I shouldn't say literally, exactly like questions 13 and 14. You got to find your R, and then you got to find your first term. So finding my R, I'm going to take 787,320 divided by 9720, and then I'm going to take my fourth root, and I believe it's going to be 3. So R is equal to 3. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and take 9720. I'm skipping steps, but you should know what I'm doing because we've done it numerous times. So 3 to the 5th power, and that should be 9720 is equal to 243x. So 970 divided by 243. Yep, my first term, x is equal to 40. That's my first term. So my final answer is going to be a of n is equal to 40, parenthesis 3 to the n minus 1 power. But wait, I shouldn't have said final answer. It says determine how many on hour 12. Well, that's super easy. Just take 12, plug it in there. So 40 times 3 raised to the power of, well, of course, 12 minus 1 would be raised to the power of 11. And we're dealing with big numbers. So A of 12 is going to be 7,085,880 cells. Sorry, there you go. All right. Now let me jump to, well, we'll do 16, sorry. I was about to jump to 17, but I'm like, oh yeah, this is a video. You can easily just pause it and back it up. All right. So South High School just opened up with 1,500. The expected growth is 6%. Now, on your quiz, a lot of y'all kind of figured this out. It's 6%, but we're growing. We're increasing by 6%. So if you remember, you're going to do 1.06, okay? So it's going to be 1,500, 1.06 to the n minus 1 power, because 1,500 is your first term. All right. Now it says create a geometric equation, which we did, and predict what year the school will have just over 3,000 students. So now we're guessing, okay, how many years will it take? And I'm literally guessing. I'm just going to say, you know what? Maybe it'll be your 5th year, so A of 5. So I'm going to take 5, plug it in there. So 1,500 times 1.06 raised to the power of x minus 1. So when I do my 5th term, which would be my 5th year, I get basically 1894. So I'm looking for 3,000, so obviously that's not enough. If I did A of 7, it would now be at 21, 28. All right, so we're getting bigger, but obviously not big enough. So again, I'm just making, okay, maybe it's A of 10. Now, a lot of y'all did get this right on the quiz, so hopefully me guessing and checking is not too difficult. The answer is actually A of 13, your 13th year, because we're just at 3,008. So the answer is never going to be exactly 3,000. So you just got to figure out when do you get to that point where you go above it. All right, Chris bought an average new car of 40,000. The average depreciation rate is 15%. So that means, if you remember, we are decreasing by 15%. That's when you subtract from 1. So actually, the R will be 0.85. So the 40,000, parenthesis 0.85 to the n minus 1. That's my formula. It says determine how much the car will be worth after 10 years. Well, that's easy. There's no guess and check then. Just take 10, plug it in for n. So 40,000 times 0.85 raised to the power of 10 minus 1. But of course, I'm just mentally going to solve it. 9 minus 1. Oh, I'm sorry, 9. My answer is 9,260. We're just around $5. There we go. Okay, so Susie puts 10,000 in the bank. That pays 3%. Now, 3% in a bank means you're increasing. So that's going to be, R is going to be 1.03. This is my first term, so 10,000 times, I don't know why I wrote it like that. I never do that. Let's see, 10,000, parenthesis 1.03 to the n minus 1. I'm going to take 20, plug it in for there. So 10,000 times 1.03 raised to the power of course, I have to raise it to 19 because mentally I'm solving 20 minus 1, and I will get $17,535. There we go. All right, there's your test review. Hopefully you learned as much and benefited from it as I did making it. All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye.